Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is All for United. We are back. Don't worry, we're not rewinding the weekend. It is Sunday today. We've not even tried to make it Saturday Night Live on Sunday. We're going for Sunday Night Live this particular occasion. And we are here to discuss everything that's happened this week. And we are looking forward to having those conversations. But just before we do that, let's go around and introduce you to the rather wonderful panel that we have assembled today. We've got one more, a little surprise for you coming in just a little bit later. But for now, here he is. He's the Gary Neville to my Roy Keane, the Bungle to my Zippy. It is Dan. How you doing, Sunshine? You all right?
Yeah, I'm better now. We've got over these technical issues.
Bless you. You had a few problems with your computer, haven't you?
Just a smidgen.
Few tiny problems, but he's over it. He's dealt with it. And of course, he is back. He's down here. He is our resident mouthpiece, and his name is Stu. How you doing, sir?
Myself first. I'm all right, actually. Not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, looking forward to the show as usual.
Marvelous. Well, this is what we are looking forward to. Now, we've got a bit of a duality here that we need to go through because obviously we've not yet covered the Bayern Munich score, and of course we have the win against Burnley. So we're going to kind of cover both, I suppose. But I think that the best place to start would actually be with yesterday's result, because it's positive and we love a bit of that. It's a 1-0 win, Dan, and possibly not the greatest performance of the season from us, but we've gone there, we've got the win, and surely that's really all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah. I was banging the drum, obviously, after the Bayern Munich game. We needed to just go at John. We needed to go and get a win and a clean sheet. That was the most important thing. By hook or crook, that's what was needed. No matter which way you look at it, the start of the season has been terrible. I think for the majority of the games, we've not been good. We're struggling with a bit injury-wise, etc. The best thing for the game for me was Johnny Evans was absolutely battered before he even kicked a football. You could see how desperate these other fan cam channels were for him to really drop an absolute stinker so they could get the clickbait, absolutely smash it off. But he was fantastic. But honestly, in my opinion, I'm going early on this, but the best player on the pitch by some distance. The way he was organised in the defence can't be overlooked either. Yeah, he's a bit older, but I'm just so happy it was 1-0, because that's what you can build from. You take a performance. You don't just suddenly run out on the pitch and win 5-0. You have to grind out a few performances and build on them. And you're not going to just suddenly turn up and win 7-0 after being in bad form. You've got to earn it. And I thought all the players fought for each other really well at the weekend. And again, I've banged the drum about him changing the team and giving some of the youngsters a chance, which he did with Hannibal, who I thought was one of the better players on the day as well. So I'm quite positive. It wasn't the best performance in the world, but it's something we can build on. And let's be honest, the fixtures we've got coming up should give us the perfect chance to build on what we've got.
Well, you would hope so, for sure. Big Johnny K, who is obviously partying in the USA, has said we needed the win. It was a good result, not the game of the season, but possibly a contender for goal of the season, and we will definitely get to that. Whilst Davers put out much needed win and clean sheet last night. We're going to talk about all of those things for sure. But Stu, as Dan has already alluded to, Johnny Evans on the pitch. Now, of course, we're going to get your general thoughts of the game, but Johnny Evans, his 200th appearance, and he comes up with an assist out of, well, as if it was divine. It really was. It's his left foot, not his proper foot. He just dinks it over on a sixpence. Perfect for Mr. Fernandes to get to. And what a finish it was. But he could have also had a goal. It was just a shame that Ireland was in between him and the goalkeeper. Otherwise, he had a goal to mark it as well. How well did you think Johnny Evans played, and how much do you think he contributed, therefore, to the ultimate result?
I I thought he was okay. I thought he was steady and equally the same as Lindelof. What I thought he brought to the team was a calmness, and that calmness actually allowed Onana to play a better, more calmer, more structured game of football than what he did in Bayern Munich. However, I thought our Bayern Munich performance was excellent. People all can look at football as many ways as you want, but I thought we dug in and we showed resilience at Bayern Munich. What we showed against Burnley was a laziness and a lackluster performance. We didn't really go at them with any vigor. We didn't go at them with any real penetration, with pace, with any kind of common sense to the pattern of play that we've tried to put together this season, and certainly what we saw last season. So, interestingly enough for me, I thought Evans was that calming influence that we need. You need an old pro in a dressing room. People can castigate Johnny Evans. You've got to understand football. I say this a lot, and you have to. You got to understand that Johnny Evans might not touch the ball for 90 minutes, but his sheer presence and the sheer ability to be able to continually communicate to players, this is where I want you, this is where I need you. And I think that really allowed Onana to be a better, more calmer goalkeeper than what we've seen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Evans played again on Tuesday. I would. I know a lot of people say, well, he's 37, he can't play. Yeah, he can. He's a pro footballer. Get on with it. And fans have got to get away from this. So he can't play. His legs are gone. All this kind of nonsense. He's got to come out and he's got to play. If we are going to be relying on Evans and Lindelof, or maybe Varane is back now, we don't really know. We'll see. Obviously, I don't expect Varane to play Tuesday. I wouldn't. Then you've got to start forming these partnerships, because centre-half partnerships are key to it. Apart from that, I thought Casemiro looked better. He looked like he's finding his groove, which was good. I think if you take the goal away from Bruno, stuck out on the right, doesn't work for him. It never has and it never will. I thought Hannibal offered the usual useful exuberance that you would get from any 20-year-old player. And I thought he played okay. He offered a little bit of a presence in there, but his decision-making, again, which will grow, it'll come with it, wasn't brilliant. McTominay, I'm not 100% sure. Johnny, as much as I always agree with you, pal, I wouldn't have given anyone man of the match. Unfortunately, on Saturday, I don't think anyone deserved that accolade. I thought Johnny Evans was probably our better player, but to elevate anyone to man of the match status for the team, I think wouldn't be right. Even though you've got to give one, I wouldn't. And I think Bruno was embarrassed to receive man of the match. I think Johnny Evans was equally embarrassed to receive man of the match off Bruno, because we didn't perform. And if you look at Burnley, and I think Dan put it right, Burnley should have and could have done better. And I think Vincent Kompany would have probably wrecked their dressing room with complete disapproval of their inability to beat a Manchester United team that just isn't clicking. So we've got major issues again, going back to Ollie's third season again, of players starting to whinge and starting to moan and starting to cry and all of this. And I'm waiting on a day where a club will get these players into the dressing room and say, if you want to cry like little babies, walk away. Tear up your contract and walk away. Because they won't give up 300 grand a week, will they? Look at Jadon Sancho right now. Look at what he's doing. They won't ever do anything of that nature. So for me, they've got to start. I mean, look, didn't Rashford say after Bayern Munich? And I thought Bayern Munich was a good performance. It was a professional football performance. That we've got to do better. We got we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror and do better. Well, I'd like to know which mirror these players have looked in, because they haven't looked in their own mirrors. and there's probably enough around Carrington for them to have a look in, but they're not standing and looking at it. They're walking around with this massive, thing about, I want all the accolades, I want this, I want that, I want this, but they can't accept criticism. Well, criticism's got to come, and Ten Hag's got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing with this criticism and weed out the babies. And the babies who don't want to be there, fuck off. Seriously. So anyway, that's how I viewed it. I'm not saying I'm right. That's just out of my eyes. That's how I viewed it. And what he does Tuesday, I think will be massively interesting. Dan, I don't know about you on that one. What team he picks, how he goes about it. And then I apologise. I haven't seen the fixtures for the weekend, so I'm not quite sure what we've got.
Got Palace again.
It is Palace, is it? It is a Palace.
Palace.
Oh, it is. We're at home, aren't we? Of course. Yes, of course. So we will see, Barry. We'll see. But for me, if you were to put the two, and I know you want to touch on Bayern Munich, but if you would put the two together, that I thought we were streets ahead in Bayern Munich. We conceded stupid goals really at Bayern Munich. We didn't play badly, in my humble opinion, but I didn't think we were great shakes at all against Burnley. I really didn't. And I do want to touch on Rasmus later because I'm going to get pelters for it. But again, you've just got to open your eyes.
Well, we will get there. You've got Dave. Dave's your fan. He's on your side there. But Dan, I kind of want to come to you about the starting lineup that was chosen for the game against Burnley. We had, obviously, Reguilon is the preferred left back due to the fact that he's really the only left back that we have at the club. So huge pressure on those shoulders, you would imagine. Obviously, Evans starting the game. Scott McTominay back into the middle of the park. But you mentioned it yourself as well. Hannibal Mejbri be given an opportunity there in what you would ordinarily call the Bruno Fernandes role. And Bruno Fernandes shifted out to the right. When you looked at that right at the very beginning, how did you feel? Because I know I was sitting there thinking, well, I like the idea of giving Hannibal a chance. He scored the other week. I think that's brilliant news for him. Not a fan of Bruno being pushed out to the right, though, when there's other players. So where did you stand on that then?
No, I'm not a fan of Fernandes on the right or the left or anywhere else, but really, Cam. It's just one of those. The stats back up that he does. We tend to do all right when he plays on the right. Unfortunately, he's there to do a job, and he often does the job right, and that's the problem in it. We've got no one that's really stepping in and taking that position by the horn, sort of thing. So I personally don't like it. The performance from Hannibal I thought was needed. I agree with what Stu's saying. I thought the performance itself was quite bad. We couldn't seem to piece anything together. I think we only had something like 26% possession by the end of it. It was very much a counter-attack performance. I just thought with the away performance in particular, we lost something like 18 or 30 in the last away games.
Yeah, something like that.
The record is absolutely atrocious. We needed players that was probably not fancy, but was going to cover some distances and help defend before attacking. And I actually thought Bruno had a pretty bad game in terms of a whole. He gave the ball away like 17 times. We didn't seem to be able to keep the ball for longer than 2 or 3 passes, and then it sort of went to pot. Lindelof was the best at keeping the ball, but the ball just then went sideways. It never went through midfield. He was never doing a line-breaking pass. It was just side to side. It was abject in a way, but McTominay and Hannibal did what they was asked to do, which was concentrate more on backing up your defenders than maybe getting forward. And we needed that. We needed the rot to stop and get 3 points for Crook. They've done it. And this is now, you've got to build on it. Hopefully we get a few players back going into the next game. He's still, for me, got to start trusting some of these players more. Whether you like the players, whether you don't like the players, you need them. And I think that's part of the problem with the start of the season. We've gone through a summer where I would say maybe 5 or 6 that are still there were told there's no future for them. And now he needs them. And they've got to get... He's got to get his head in the right place, and they've got to get their head in the right place, which is we needed, and we need to give our biggest, best efforts. Donny was on the bench, and he's been left out of the Champions League squad, and I thought that was quite surprising. So yeah, it's going to be a big effort, and the players need to get in the right place. But I thought, again, even against Burnley, there was times in that second half, I don't know whether you'll agree, 70 minutes onwards, there should have been subs made, and he's not completely trusting these players to come on. Rashford was struggling again, 88 minutes onwards to get back, and he just doesn't want to make the sub. Like, he doesn't trust Pellistri to follow his man, or Garnacho to defend, or whatever. The trust just doesn't seem to be there. So we've got to let these, let's say, second squad players have a chance. And I think that's what he needs to do against Palace. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's shown that he will go as strong as he possibly can, because he wants to win every game. Whether that's the right choice or not, we'll find out come the next couple of games. Yeah, I'm optimistic, because we've got something to build on. The last thing we needed was to lose. I was saying to a few people that it had the vibes of Solskjaer and Watford. I felt if we would have took a bit of a tanking from Burnley and not taken the 3 points, there would be big discussions this week about what's happening going forward. And we don't need that. Ten Hag needs backing, and we just need to get through these games. And some of these players really do need to start stepping up. And this is why I enjoyed Johnny Evans's performance so much. And it was basically because he was written off before the game, and he was the best player on the pitch for me. I agree with Stu. It's hard to say that when we've not played very well, but he was above the rest.
Absolutely.
I think, sorry, Barry. I think you make an interesting point, Dan. Really, football is sometimes about getting over the line by hook or by crook, and it doesn't matter how you get over that line; just get over that line. And the lads and Ten Hag can point to that particular phrase. We've got over the line and we've done it. And a win will give you that kind of bounce. But my main issue with footballers today is their personalities and the way that they feel that they're above everything in terms of criticism, when really they're employees of a football club, and you've got to have a structure where the manager has got to be in a position to be able to do what he needs to do to get the very, very best out of these players. But the players have got to do everything they need to do to be the very, very best of what they can be. And we're not doing that. I mean, if you come back to Jadon Sancho, but if we're allowing Sancho to do what he's doing right now, if you believe everything you see in the media, to do what he's doing right now, then it's open season on Ten Hag. If you allow him to do that, it's open season on Ten Hag. Whether or not we agree with the way he got rid of David De Gea, some people do, some people don't. I think there would have been a better way of dealing with the De Gea situation. We needed a goalkeeping change, no two ways about it, but there was a better way to treat a player that had been with the club for 12 years. But again, if he allows himself to be, train wrecked over that, then it's open season on Ten Hag. And these players, the ones that aren't getting the game and are crying about it, and they're not working hard enough in training, they're not coming in for those extra 2 hours. If there's a day off there, they're going shopping for their next Gucci, whatever. They're not going in training. Then they've only got themselves to blame, and they've got to shut up or put up. And none of our players are doing it. And this is the issue that we've got. I also take and agree with you about trusting the players. You've got to trust your squad of 26. You have to trust them. You're playing for Manchester United, playing for the greatest club on the planet. You're at the elite of the elite when you roll out in a Manchester United shirt. And yet on Saturday evening, we put a midfield trio out of Casemiro, McTominay and Hannibal. That isn't becoming of Manchester United at all, or any Premier League football club. But we got away with it, and he's got to look at it, and he's got to We should be saying to Donny, you've got to be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. How am I pushing a 20-year-old in front of you? What the fuck's going on? You're a Champions League semi-finalist, multiple Eredivisie title winner. Why am I pushing a 20-year-old in front of you? McTominay, you're not doing enough for me. Yeah, he did his job, but you're not doing enough. Why aren't you doing enough in a game? Why aren't you trying to make that last-ditch tackle? Why are you walking? Dave's right. I didn't think McTominay had a great game at all. Now, you could argue that he's towing the line. Now, if you are an elite player and you're under Sir Alex Ferguson, I asked Paul Parker a question the other night, and he was saying to me that you never went against the gaffer. I think you have to. I think you've got to go against the gaffer to get yourself into the game. Otherwise, you're on the periphery all the time. And then you can't affect it, so you just become a pair of legs in a team of 11. Well, good, just a pair of legs in a team of 11. I need you to do something with your brain. I need you to operate at a level consistently that allows you to, be number one on my team sheet, be in the first 11 week in, week out. Something when you sorry, Barry, I will shut up, mate. But when you look at what City did against Forest. Okay, now you can argue the toss about Forest not being a great side, but ultimately when City went down to 10 men, they became a better unit. They became a more tighter unit. They cut off the space a lot quicker. I didn't score or anything like that, but there are occasions when they were playing keep ball for 5, 6, 7 minutes. We haven't got the capacity to do that, or we have actually got the capacity to do that. We just can't be bothered. We're looking for the Hollywood ball all the time, or we're looking for the 2-yard pass all the time. We become afraid during a match rather than, let's get the ball and let's really, take the game by the scruff of the neck. Let's do something with it. And sometimes our fan base would be more happy, like we were against Bayern Munich, to go down 4-3, but at least we had a fucking go. At least we tried to get back into the game of football. And I think, Dan, I actually think you're right, mate. I think if we'd gone behind on Saturday night, we may well have struggled to get a result out of there. So,
would have been interesting. I think you're right on that one. But listen, guys, what a moment we've got for you now. I mean, honestly, I'm excited. It's a bit like we've been talking about Johnny Evans returning to Manchester United after almost a decade and coming in and getting the assist. We all remember when Paul Scholes retired and then he was asked to come back just for another season. And recently, I understand that The Rock returned to WWE and there was all manner of stuff going on there. And all of this pales into insignificance because I'm delighted to say that we have got the owner. No, not Vince McMahon, but he's a bit like that, got the same sort of hair. It is the one and only Connor Roberts. Boss,
oh, my God.
How are you, sir?
Vince McMahon, come on now.
No chance in hell that you was getting anything else.
I've been called many things. Vince McMahon's the first. Yes, it's good to be back on here. I've even put the United shirts up for you. So
see, get this decoration. It's marvelous.
So got those on just for you because it's your show. And
well, my decoration's behind my shoulder. You can't see it very well, so ignore that. It's David Beckham over that side. Anyway, onwards. We've spoken a lot about Burnley. I know that you've been listening in during the first 20 odd minutes of the show, but I want to pick up on Bruno Rashford. No, I just read the word Rashford there, and that is an entirely different person. Imagine. Bruno Fernandes is the one I want to speak about because I'm really impressed with him in general. And I've just been looking at some of his numbers. He scored more goals than Robbie Van Persie, Dimitar Berbatov, and Chicharito now as a backing player, but not as a forward. He scored exactly the same as Dwight York. And he is only one behind the legend that is Norman Whiteside, who, interestingly, as I was writing that down, all I could think about was the song Mr. Brightside and then started singing his name to that song. And I kind of feel like if he was here now playing football, that would be the ideal tune for him. But, Connor, give us your thoughts on the Burnley game and also a little bit more about what you think about Bruno Fernandes, because I think he really isn't given as much respect as I think his name really deserves lately.
Yeah, I mean, on Burnley, I think I agree with what the guys have said. I don't know, it was great. Well, it wasn't. How Burnley didn't take, a better team. We always say this, probably take their chances early on. I thought Burnley actually played pretty well, to be honest. It was just a weird old game. I agree with what Dan was saying. I think we just had to just kind of get over the line. We couldn't afford another away defeat, because I know we've got a lot of home games coming up. I think on 6 out of our next 7 or 5 out of our next 6 are at home now. And obviously City at the back end of that, at the back end of that run. So we've got a lot of home games now. So it was important to just get that away win, kind of just in the bag, because I feel like if we'd have lost that yesterday, I think Dan made this point a minute ago, that the questions then start really being ramped up on Ten Hag. It's another media spin that we don't need right now, because there's enough noise around United with players and with the ownership and all kinds of things going on. We don't need another thing added to that list. So important to get the win in that respect, albeit still a little bit concerned. There's still certain players I look at and think, like, what is going on? If they're that tired already and we're only 6 or 7 games into a season, I'm even more worried, because what happened in pre-season, we had a proper pre-season this time, full, there was no interruption, all those kind of things. So there's not really an excuse this year. And we look even more tired than we did last season. So is there a fitness? I don't know. There's a few question marks there. I thought the lineup was probably as good as we've got right now. I don't think there's, when you're looking at the injuries, obviously Evans came in. I was happy with that, to be honest. Again, who else is going to go in there? We don't have anyone else. Varane's only just coming back. Obviously Martinez is out. Maguire, I don't know what's going on with him. Fullbacks, we don't have that many now either. So we're running out of players. And in the midfield, I'm happy Hannibal got a start, because I was a bit worried, because Ten Hag doesn't like to stray away from his usual, favourites or 11 or so on. Dave, I'm not 28 just yet, by the way. That is John Commode's little attempt. There's a player that plays for Burnley.
I was just going to say, we will just jump in with this. I haven't missed that, have I?
No, there's a player. The right back for Burnley is also called Connor Robertson. I believe it was recently. He's a bit older than me.
Genuinely, I was buried under 7 hours of finding data about Luton Town ladies yesterday, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how have I not even wished him happy birthday? How's that just slipped me by? So there we go. But this day, wowzers.
Wow.
No. It's only his wig that looks like it was from the 1940s. Everything else is bang on. Anyway, please continue.
I'm not even 28 yet. I'm 26 in January. Come on now. But I can't remember saying that. Yeah, so I think that team is probably the best that we've got right now. Obviously, there's Garnacho, Pellistri, and these kinds of players to come in. But outside of that, Dan mentioned Van der Beek was on the bench. I mean, really? Is this where we're ending up? But like now, I don't know. It's just a bit of a mess. On Bruno, he's such a weird player to me, because he really infuriates me during games, because his mannerism, it's spoken about a lot, his kind of mannerisms and things like that, and he tries the Hollywood pass more than I'd like. I know that he has to do it, and I know when you look at players, especially for like City, they try it a lot, but for me, the City players have a higher success rate of doing it. Maybe that's because of the quality of players that they've got. Obviously, when you've got Haaland up top, obviously it's a little bit easier to hit your target when you're playing those balls in the middle or over the top or whatever. But the stats don't lie. As you said a minute ago, Barry, I think Bruno always contributes in that respect. You have to look at his numbers over the last few years. He's played an awful lot of games as well. When you look at his injury record, he rarely gets injured in that respect. So, yeah, I think he does deserve more plaudits. I don't think he's spoken about in the same light because of the likes of De Bruyne in the league. And I think if he wasn't, Bruno would probably be spoken about in higher regard. But he's in that conversation. I hate it when people just say, the best midfielders in the league, it's Odegaard and De Bruyne, and they just don't look at anyone else. Bruno's in that conversation. But it's just a weird one, I said, because he just infuriates me a lot during games. But, the finish itself is right up there. They said it on commentary, didn't they? Ronaldo scored one of those. I think it was Spurs away. I think it was a couple of seasons ago. That kind of cross volley. Obviously, the Van Persie one was mentioned a lot as well. But it's a really hard technique to do that, first time and keeping it lower. You see a lot of players do that, and it goes right up into the air because it's usually where the ball's going to go. So yeah, I think he's done really well. But it's just sharpening up those little things. I think if he wants to, I think he's a very, very good player. I think if he wants to get to elite level, I think there's just a few things he needs to brush up on. But that might come with better teammates around him.
I think you might be right. So the next sort of point I wanted to get to, and I know that Stu's alluded to the clean sheet already as well. But Dan, another player that's been sort of under the spotlight lately is, of course, Andre Onana. And I can't say I've been overjoyed by the start that he's had. I've been a little bit nervous, having not seen much of him outside of playing for us and outside of the Champions League final, if I'm honest, from last season as well. But, I mean, the game against Munich, that first goal, I mean, it was De Gea-esque in De Gea's last season with us, really. It was the sort of mistake that we were seeing from De Gea. But contrast that with how he's then performed against Burnley. He had a superb save early on in the game. Yes, he was a bit lucky with the ball that ended up coming back off the post. But ultimately, a much better performance from Onana, a bit more assured. Do you put it down to what Stu said about having somebody like Johnny Evans in front of him? Or do you just put it down to Onana being quality?
I've been underwhelmed by Onana so far, but I don't think it is his fault in a sense. He can't be dropping the balls in his net. I don't think the save he made when Rice scored, he probably should have saved that as well. There's been quite a few this season. So far, what he's good at isn't outweighing what he's not very good at. Whereas De Gea did that for years. His shot stopping outweighed the fact that he wasn't great with his feet. So we've just got to give him time to bed in. The defence has been so unsettled as well. I think we've had a different back line pretty much every week. We've lost another. Johnny Evans came off. I don't know whether he was injured or not, but Reguilon was sick as well, apparently. So he's struggling. So it's just about getting the whole team back on track, really. I've said it last week. We can't blame the defence constantly and every week, all the time, the goalkeeper constantly every time. We've got to look at the midfielders as well. And this is why I think he picked the team he did, because he knew that McTominay and Hannibal would have the energy to close down passing lanes and just cut up the play a bit more. It might have taken away the attack a lot, but it helped the team defend better. And even though it wasn't fantastic, but I think it's because we're so under the cosh. When you're having to start Johnny Evans that's 35, that was just training with you for the summer and ended up getting a contract because the club's on its absolute knees because we can't make any signings and we've sent so many players out on loan, and the time when we need Maguire to be fit, he's not fit, and then we've lost Varane as well at the same time. I think Martinez has been poor this season. Not a lot of people will want to agree or listen to that, but I don't think he's been very good at all. He's been subbed twice because he's struggling. So I'll give Onana a little bit of time. Obviously, he deserves it. It's a big signing, but while we're having to play the way we play, he's not going to be at his very best. He needs players that are cool and calm on the ball, and we just haven't got that at the minute. It's obviously a team issue. It's going to take time to blend it all together. I think it has to be a realization that we're not the Man United of 10 years ago anymore. We're a different team now. We're not expected to challenge for titles as much as fans we want it. This team's not good enough to challenge for titles. It's not been good enough to challenge for titles for years. Even when Solskjaer was finishing second, that team was not good enough to finish second. He just did a cracking job in making them finish second. The work that Ten Hag did last year in particular can't be undermined at all. He was well above where rightly we should be finishing. And I think Mourinho said it about one of the sides that the second place with them was one of his biggest achievements in football. And there needs to be a realization that maybe, just maybe, we need to back a manager, even if he finishes 8th, and give him the time he needs to change everything. And if that's what it takes, so be it. You look at Arsenal and Arteta, they had a couple of seasons of real struggle, and people wanted him out. They gave him chance. They lost 8 of 12, if I remember, in a run. They stuck by him. And I think we're in a really similar position. We just need to, as fans, realise that it's going to be a tough season. And I think I predicted us to finish 4th. I think most fans would snap your hand off at that at the minute. Another cup run and 4th.
I mean, who would predict them finishing second then?
No, yeah, exactly. And just a quick one on Fernandes. Fernandes, by the way, since he joined the league, is better than anybody else for big chances created, assists, goals, all of it combined. He's the best, and it's by a distance. If he was in a better team, we would be talking about how special he is in terms of, like people talk about De Bruyne. He's just come to Man United at the wrong time. So without him, I dread to think where we would be. He is a really special player. He's one of them that in 10 years' time, we'll really talk about how special he is.
Yeah. Stu, I kind of wanted to get your weigh in as well on Andre Onana, because it has been a rocky start for him. And, you know, I seem to recall Fabian Barthez having a bit of a rocky start as well to begin with. And he still turned into one of the most memorable goalkeepers we've had. But specifically on the point that Dan's mentioned there, he talks about needing a back four that are going to be a bit more calm and collected in front of him. But does that really affect your shot-stopping ability? Surely we want to see more of how he managed to do that against Burnley, and to a degree a little bit against Bayern as well. He did make a couple of good saves. All goalkeepers have got mistakes in them. They're always going to be highlighted more. We know that. But it's not been the greatest of starts for him. But are we starting to see the shoots of what Andre Onana can do?
The biggest thing when you're centre half is that you always want to look behind you and feel safe and feel comfortable. As a goalkeeper, you want to look in front of you and feel safe and feel comfortable. It's that vicious circle. And unfortunately, at the minute with Onana and what we've experienced over the last 18 months with De Gea, we haven't had that kind of camaraderie between the goalkeeper and the centre halves. I've spoken about it way too many times to go over that again. One of the issues that Onana's got at the moment is our centre halves just aren't playing well, and it doesn't matter who's in there at that particular time. They're allowing players to run off them. And although he's quite quick off his line, he's not setting himself right, because I don't think he's quite expecting players to be easily free as they've been. Now, if you watch a Martinez from last year and you watch Varane from last year, and in particular those two, Martinez was the one that was crunching into tackles and really, ruffling up the centre forwards. And Varane was just there kind of mopping everything up. So, if he did manage to get past Martinez, the ball's likely to have gone loose because Martinez has put some kind of tackle in. And then Varane's able to mop it up and he's able to push it back to De Gea. And that isn't happening this time. We're kind of all over the place at centre half, which is completely unnerved our good old friend Onana. His problem is he's coming to the dressing room wearing Speedos, thinking he's a grade A, catwalk model. And in fact, really, he's just wearing his grandma's underpants at the minute, because that's where he needs to be. He needs to consider what his position is in the club, what his position is in the team, and go completely back to basics. What made me become the goalkeeper that I was to the goalkeeper that I am. And you've got to completely forget all this bollocks of playing for Manchester United and concentrate on you as an individual. And this is the issue with, by the way, the bulk of our squad. The bulk of our squad don't do that. They think you come to Manchester United now, you think you made it. Well, you haven't. The problem is, years gone past, even before Sir Alex, when he came to Manchester United, it was an absolute privilege. It was an honour to play for the club. It doesn't appear to be that at the moment, the likes of them. So, when it's little, and it is little tiny things for me. It's all about standards in football. It's little tiny things for me. Their attitude when they get off the bus and they don't even go over and sign autographs anymore, hardly. For the fans, they slope by, giving it the big, and they might wave and all that kind of stuff. That's not what it's about. If you took all those fans away and Manchester United rocked up and they went off the bus and they'd be looking around, there's nobody there, they'd be wondering what the hell's going on. Then the first autograph they could find, they'll sign it, because our players have that mentality of wanting to be the star of the show, of wanting to be talked about all of the time, of wanting to do the Hollywood balls, and wanting to do this and wanting to do that, rather than actually getting down to what made you a footballer in the first place. And that's the love of the game. The love of the game's gone. at the moment. So an honour for me. He needs to really strip back. What he was, what got him into goalkeeping, and start thinking about why he wanted to be a goalkeeper in the first place, and start looking at it. If you're no good at shot stopping, you talk to your centre halves. If you can't come across, you talk to your centre halves. If you're not going to come out, you talk to your centre halves. You've got to, get that communication going. As for Bruno, just quickly, my issue with Bruno, and stats really don't. And I know people love stats. He does this, he does that, but football's all about your ability to change a game. Now, Johnny Evans and Bruno changed the game. Two of them the ability to find the pass, and then Bruno's volley. And as Connor said, most of the time it would go 6 foot over the bar, but this time he controlled it. It was great. But his problem is, and Connor mentioned it, he's going and he's playing all these Hollywood balls because no idiot, no player will come short for him. Football is about coming short as it is going long. If he needs somebody to come short to him, he should be screaming, "Come short! I need you short!" And then he can pop it off and do and move, players in and around. He doesn't do that a lot. If it doesn't go for him early doors in a game, he gets frustrated in himself, and that frustration then boils over. But I'll pick out one thing for you after the goal. I don't know whether you all saw it. Did you see the relief in Casemiro's face? The absolute relief when he scored. I know. I don't know. People he said, "Where would we be without you?" and all of that kind of stuff. That's not, that's not the type of thing you should be saying to a footballer. It would be brilliant. Let's do it again. Let's see. Let's get another goal now. Let's kick on. Let's kick on. Let's kick on. These guys aren't bad winners. You have to be a really bad winner to be the best player you can be, because you've got to be constantly criticising yourself. Oh, I should have done this. I should have been there. Should have made that pass. Should have got that tackle. But we won. Yeah, but might have won 2-0 if I'd been on the game a bit better, if I'd thought a bit more. And this is what football's about. This is where City and Liverpool. No, we can't deny on this panel right now that Liverpool are going to push City this year. They really are. They're playing very well. They're only 2 points off. They're playing very, very well, Liverpool. Are they going to push City? The mentality is win, win, win at all costs. I think we go in. I think we dick about in training. And I just think we're not really applying ourselves to where we need to be at the minute. And my frustrations were huge on Saturday because it just isn't good enough.
I mean, to be fair, you're talking about two football teams that I don't recognise. For me, the table stops at Brighton. Herein
lies the thing, you see. A true football purist, Brighton absolutely destroyed us. They played some wonderful football, and we just couldn't get to grips with it. And you're talking elite professional footballers in not being able to get to grips with actually what's unfolding in front of your eyes, your own two eyes. It's unfolding in front of your eyes, and you can't still get to grips with it. You can't. It's almost. And I've heard people say, "Oh, Ten Hag isn't improving players. Ten Hag isn't doing this. Ten Hag isn't doing that." But most of our players, are in their 20s, have been playing since they were 5 years old. It's like you're still learning to write. At 20, you're still learning football. You're still learning to write. It's a very similar thing because that's all you've done all your life. And we learned to write at, I can't remember what age I learned to write, probably 4 or 5. But, you should be there. Now all it's about is honing your skills. It's developing yourself, not waiting and not looking around and saying, well, where should I stand now? Well, you should know. I don't know. I just fed up with him, if I'm being honest. I've just fed up with him.
It makes you feel better. I'm still learning to write. My handwriting's not good. It's been terrible for 41 years.
No, but you can still write, though. But you can still write,
I just choose not to. My computer's good and that works, so people can read what I write. Connor, I just want to throw over to you with regards to your thoughts really sort of on the Bayern Munich game. I mean, because Stuart and Dan have both mentioned better performance probably in the Bayern game than we had at Burnley, but obviously we didn't get the win. I think what impressed me most about that was our fight, our desire, the fact that we just kept going, we let in a couple of silly goals to make it 2-0. But the problem was every time we pulled ourselves back into it, 2-1 became 3-1, 3-2 became 4-2, at which point, the free kick and the goal from Casemiro in the end didn't really matter because it was too deep into injury time. But not a bad performance at all. For our first outing, really, in the Champions League for quite some time, how did that make you feel with regards to your sort of expectations, I suppose, really, for the Champions League this season?
Yeah, I mean, on a less serious note, the Bayern game is really clouded for me because, Barry, as you'll know, little plug, there'll be an announcement tomorrow. We got an email halfway through that game that really took my mind away from the game. So everything after that, I received that email is kind of a bit of a blur.
Brill cream, wasn't it?
It was what, sorry?
It's from Brill cream, wasn't it? The hair
cream. Not quite. People will see what I'm on about tomorrow. It'll be on my Twitter. But yeah, so everything after that's a bit of a blur. However, the serious point, yeah, I thought it was good because, not gonna lie, at 2-0, I thought we were going to get absolutely battered because the goals came in quick succession. It was obviously the first goal was a massive error from Onana, and I thought this is just going to be an absolute walkover. At that point, I was expecting 5 or 6, but it came after half time, scored, and then I think if Bayern don't get that penalty so shortly after, I think we probably do get a point or maybe even win the game from there. It's the fact that goal came so quick, the penalty after Højlund had pulled one back, and it kind of killed us again for the next kind of 20 minutes or so. But I thought it was good, considering the injuries we've got. Our first, kind of outing, as you said, in the Champions League for some time. We've got one of the hardest teams in Europe away as our first stage game. A team that obviously is one of the best in Germany, one of the best in Europe. To score 3 goals at the Allianz, that's impressive in itself. Obviously, a bit annoying not to get something from it, especially with the mistakes that we made, obviously, especially the first one. But I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't going into that game expecting anything. So the fact we came away with a narrow defeat, especially after the start, it was those kind of 5-10 minutes where they scored a couple of goals. Yeah, I was pretty happy with it, to be honest, because as I said, I was expecting an absolute rioting from Bayern. They've got some unbelievable players, by the way, especially the youngsters. I'm going to butcher his name. Musiala? Is that his name?
Yeah, they're both very good. He's English as well, isn't he, Musiala?
Exactly. Is it Tell?
I'm proud of you for trying, Connor, to be fair. Normally you shy away. Good job.
And, Tell, who I mentioned now, obviously scored the 4th one. He's only 18. Like, this is the kind of squad Bayern Munich have. Right. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's a good result. We'll get through the group, or we should do anyway. I'm a little bit worried. It kind of ties into what we said at the start. When you're looking at the away form, those away games, Copenhagen or Galatasaray, could pose a bit of an issue. Maybe. Obviously, it depends how this squad copes with it. We should get through the group, though. I'm pretty confident after seeing that we'll get through in second. We're not going to top the group, I don't think. We'll probably beat or draw Bayern at home. I can't see us topping the group. But yeah, I don't think we're going to. I'm not going to lie. After seeing that, we're not going to go on and win it. I'm not sat here going, "Oh yeah, that was such a good performance. We're going to go far." But certainly, quarterfinals, I think, is achievable. And I think most United fans probably would have taken that, especially after the start of the season we've had.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Dan, the penalty is mentioned. One word answer before I go deep into it was: do you think it was a penalty?
No.
And this is the bit that gets me because we saw it ourselves. If you go back to Solskjaer's game against PSG with that mountain that's there to be climbed moment, obviously it required a handball, and that was a tricky handball, to be fair. I mean, there was no way that geezer was getting his hand out of the way in time for him to be able to do anything with it, but it was given. And we see that, I think, more often in the continental games, that handball just tends to be handball, really. They seem to give it regardless of what happens. Why is it that we don't seem to have this rule as well when it comes into the Premier League? Because in the Premier League, we have to have a full hour's version of Midsummer Murders in order to try and work out whether or not handball is handball and whether it was intentional and what was the motive and all of that sort of stuff. And everybody's fallen asleep by the time it's found. Yet this one, given. What is it? Why is it that we've got such wildly different interpretations from these two different governing bodies?
I don't know. I think the only thing you can say about Europe is at least it's consistent. Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, The rule seems to be if your arms away from your silhouette, it's going to be given as handball. Irrelevant of distance, speed, it's just going to be given as handball. And they are quite consistent in the way they give it. The Premier League's just a complete mess. The Luton Town one yesterday, I didn't even see it. I just see the BBC tweet and it said hit leg, then hit arm. And I instantly went, well, it cannot be a penalty. The law states that it's not a penalty. If it hits your leg and then goes up onto your arm, it shouldn't be given as a penalty. Apparently, there has been a slight law change, but it still would have to be a deliberate handball for them to overturn. And there's no way it was deliberate. And then you saw today the Romero one, for me, isn't handball. It's a shot on the turn. He's a yard away. It's bounced up. Is it his hand? Yes, his hand's up a little bit, but was it deliberate? I don't think it was. And then you think about the Garnacho shot against Romero, where it's a little bit further out. His arm's a bit more out here. It hits it. We don't give the penalty. I don't know. I'm confused by it, to be honest. I've mentioned a few times that I think we're struggling in terms of the laws of the game and not just handball. I've seen some tackles today after the Arsenal game in particular and another couple of games where they're just strange decisions. There's a tackle by Nketiah today that's about 2 seconds late and he's so out of control. I ain't got a clue how they've not looked at it. But it's going to be frustrating all year, to be honest, because they're trying to do the right thing and they're getting it wrong. On the Bayern Munich game, I thought he was good and I thought it was better than against Burnley, but I was still really concerned. The way we was getting turned over in midfield and ran at was quite concerning. I think we had 4 shots on target and scored 3 of them. So we was quite consistent with that. But did we concede like 19 shots against, 10 on target, something like that, less possession? My worry is Ten Hag said that he was going to come in, was going to play this football where he would keep the ball, we would pass it round, we would have some control. We just don't seem to have any of that. It's very much like a bad version of counter-attacking football at the minute. I don't know what's going to change it. It's going to take a lot of effort. I still think we'll qualify from this group. We should qualify from this group, really. Do I think we'll get past the first knockout round? I'm not convinced. It'll depend. But there's a long way to go. I hope we see a little bit of rotation with the squad. I'm not asking for a completely different 11 or whatever. My issue is we got into a position last season, and even the start of this season, no matter your form, you was getting picked because Ten Hag was picking you. Now we fell to a point where, again, these changes, apart from the Burnley ones, are basically enforced. It's not a change he's made because he's thought, such and such is out of form, I'll make a change. They're just enforced. He's got to make these changes. When these players come back, we need to see more. Right, do you know what? Rashford, you've not played well for 5 games. I'm giving Garnacho a chance on the left. For me, Johnny
isn't there an element of, you're saying we need to give the second string players a chance, but actually at the moment, a lot of the second string are actually the first string. Because Johnny Evans and Lindelof are not meant to be there. Reguilon wasn't meant to be there. McTominay wasn't meant to be a starting midfielder. Mesbury wasn't meant to be the starting midfielder. Fernandes isn't meant to be out on the right-hand side. So that's half the team there already, which are already, people that are being given that opportunity because literally there's no other choice.
What I mean. We've battled to a win with that team. We've battled to a win. And the performance against Bayern was good, was better. And again, I can't remember the full lineup. I'd have to have a look. Did he give Pellistri a chance that game? I'm pretty sure he did.
On Saturday?
Yeah. No. Against Bayern. Pellistri played against Bayern. Yeah.
Stu shaking his head.
Yeah, he did. He started on
the
right.
Yeah, I thought he did, yeah. And then McTominay started that game as well, I think. So
he didn't. Eriksen, Casemiro in the middle, and Pellistri and Rashford on the right, left.
Did McTominay come on?
He did. McTominay, Martial, Garnacho came on.
Yeah, so it's about, like, you've just got to make these players feel like they're wanted by the club and they're going to affect the season, and that's what we're lacking. I hope he reverts to whatever he thinks his strongest lineup is for Palace at the weekend. He needs to. I wouldn't risk a first team against Palace in the cup myself. But again, it depends what you want from the season. Do you sort of hope we finish top 4 and we get another cup run, or do you try and put your eggs in a more strong Premier League finish, strong Champions League finish? I think we've got enough to get through the groups. It'll be interesting the Galatasaray away. I think that's where you're going to find out whether we qualify or not.
Well, we shall find out in a moment. I mean, Stu, following on from what Dan's just said there, he talks about the rotation. Obviously, the game against Burnley, we saw Varane come on and Amrabat come on. But you're talking about players like Christian Eriksen, Dangor, Bayindir, Van der Beek, Garnacho, Martial, Pellistri. None of those brought on in the game against Burnley. I know that you wanted to make a point about Rasmus Højlund, who obviously scored his first goal against Bayern Munich, which was hooray, wonderful. We're all delighted for that. Go ahead. This is your platform for your Rasmus Højlund opinion.
Sure. Well, just quickly, just to touch on penalty kicks, I think it's fair to say that IFAB make the rules, and the rules are for every league in the world. The handball rule is exactly the same. Doesn't matter whether you're in South America or us, is exactly the same. There should be no interpretation different to any other country. Those are the rules, and the rules should be adhered to. We don't seem to do it, and so you've got to do one, two things. The ball hits your hand in the air, it's a pen. That's it. That way, there's no argument. There's nothing, and we don't seem to do that. And that's the easy way moving forward. Then everybody knows that's what you do. And the clever players will go and try and play off somebody's hand in the penalty area, and that's just tough if you're caught with your hands up. So that's how I see it.
Sorry, just while I remember, Stu, what frustrated me about the Bayern Munich game is the second goal. I mean, the first goal, obviously, Onana drops it. I don't think it's a penalty. The second goal, Musiala, I think he handballs it. So it deflects off Dalot, and he knocks it into his path again with his hand. I don't understand how that wouldn't be given as a handball, but then the Eriksen one is given as a handball, because they're both about as deliberate as the other one.
Well, but this is my point. So you've got to give everything or nothing. Yeah. I mean, that's my point in handball. It's the truth of the matter is nobody has got a clue what the rule is. Nobody on the planet, even the idiot that wrote it, IFAB, doesn't even know. Because if he did, he'd be pushing UEFA and FIFA and all associations across the globe. You've got my interpretation wrong. You've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. And we're not doing it. I spoke to Keith Hackett a couple of weeks ago, and even he doesn't know. And he used to head up the PGMOL. Nobody knows what's going on with handball. Nobody's got a clue. So it's good. Højlund, I just wanted to touch on Højlund's very, very quickly, really. I'm going to get pelters for it, I know, but he annoyed me on Saturday, really. I think he's a huge talent, but talent isn't good enough for what we need at the minute. We need a clinician up front. But he's getting there, but crikey. He's got two issues, Højlund is. The first one is Rashford. Okay, and he knows that 9 out of 10 times he's going to get maybe 1 out of 10 attempts from Rashford, either via a pass or by a cross. And secondly is because he's not expecting the ball to come in, he's not gambling enough. I know, look, I didn't expect Dalot to dig that cross out, deep into the second half against Burnley, but Højlund was on his back foot. You've got to gamble in these situations, and a good top quality number 9, he gambles all the time. And if you look an idiot for going for it and you miss it, tough. Because next time you won't miss it. In the time after that, you won't miss it, because it's all about getting your timing, working on your timing, working on your runs. I don't see him point and shout and scream where he wants the ball, in front of him. And I think he's a fantastic footballer. He's big, strong, he's athletic, and he'll come good for us. But he's got to be a good number 9. He's got to be like a good goalkeeper. You've got to have balls of steel. And you've got to be able to tell these players, whether it's Bruno, whether it's Casemiro, you've got to be able to tell them exactly where you want that football. And if it doesn't come in, smash them in the face at half time. Because I know it sounds stupid, but you've got to go fighting these players. You've got to drill it into them what they need to do, because you're there for one reason only, and that's to put the ball in the back of the fucking net. And if it isn't being delivered, and you're not working hard enough to make that space to allow the delivery to come in, you've got to take a look at yourself as well. And there's a mixture of issues for us here. Rashford's just not. I mean, there was a great example of Rashford being selfish against Burnley, where we broke. I think it was Casemiro was free on the right. Rashford went across the goal instead of passing it into a free Casemiro, by the way, who probably would have scored and made it 2-0. He goes for that strike and it gets blocked. Now, if you're Rasmus Højlund, you're in there thinking, well, what's the fucking point of me going there? I ain't going to get anywhere. The ball isn't going to come in. So a good, solid centre half. Ruud van Nistelrooy would have killed Rashford by now. One of the biggest issues he had was he had Ronaldo over it, because Ronaldo was dicking about with it, wasn't he, on the wings? He wasn't crossing the ball. And Rashford's doing the same. And Højlund's got to get hold of him and tell him, get that football into me because I will score goals. If you don't feed me, I ain't going to score. You know, so it's a mixture. It's a mixture of having to go at Rashford. It's a mixture of having to go at Højlund. But I think Højlund will come good. Don't get me wrong. I think he will. But he's got to grow a pair of balls quickly because you've got to be selfish on that pitch as a striker. Haaland is. He's selfish. They're similar ages. He's selfish. He's got 6 in 8 or 8 in 6, hasn't he, Haaland, already? It's pathetic. You know, it's a joke. And Højlund can be that level if he applies himself. And we're not using him. We're not using him right. You know, the frustration with this side at the minute is just, honestly. Anyway.
It is a bit frustrating, but let's consider, just before we end it all, really, the games that are coming up, because we have got 4 home games on the trot, which is quite entertaining. Obviously, we've got the Crystal Palace double header. So for those who don't get to watch Palace in the middle of the week, can watch them again at the weekend instead. So nice little read there, which will be nice. Obviously, we've got Galatasaray as well in our second Champions League game, and then Brentford, which is a nice little run, actually. And facing Galatasaray when you're at home and not having to travel to Turkey in that cauldron of atmosphere they create, you would expect, really, would you not, Connor, 4 wins from that particular run when we usually talk about Manchester United at this level. But why does it feel trickier than that?
I was going to say, you're asking me as a United fan, do I expect 4? No, because you never know which team is going to turn up. You know, like, as you said there, 4 games at Old Trafford, 2 against Palace, Galatasaray, Brentford. You'd expect 4 wins, right? But I'm not, because it really depends. Obviously, the one midweek against the first Palace one, I think Ten Hag will go strong again, because we saw it last season how strong he went in the cups. He never rotated, even in games where you'd think, right, this is the rotation game. It would still be Fernandes and Rashford and De Gea, Varane, Martin. It would still be that core all the time. So it really depends how strong he takes the Palace one. Palace at home again. We're usually all right against Palace anyway, but it's that Brentford one at the back end of it that Brentford just seem to be a side that we struggle against regardless. You know, home, away, just one of those teams. Any team with a bit of energy, to be honest, we seem to struggle against. So expect 4 wins, yes. As you said, if that's Galatasaray away, then I'm even less confident, because just I don't trust this team away from home fully yet, because our record just shows that. But yeah, we need 4 wins, because I think if we come out of this and we don't get 4 wins, as you mentioned, I think it's Sheffield away after that, then it's Copenhagen at home, and then it's City at home. So if we get through those 4 games without winning all 4, Sheffield away should be fine. But then you're looking at the other games there, they become their must-wins, and they're even harder than the 4 we've got. So yeah, we should be all right. But I worry a little bit with the lack of rotation we seem to see from Ten Hag. The fact that we've got so many injuries. We have players that come back from injury, then get injured again very quickly afterwards. So there seems to be an issue with I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the medical staff, but something's not right, because we have reoccurring injuries on the same players, and we have players that come back and instantly go out again. So there's that. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot harder than I think people realise. And we've seen this season and the back end of last season that any team, I just said a second ago, with a bit of energy, we struggle against. And I don't know. It really depends what United side shows up. but at home we're usually all right. So I'm a little bit more confident than I would be if one of those were away.
It's interesting. Dave's just putting it. All games should be must wins, and I'm intrigued by that statement. And Stu's nodding away vigorously there. But what I'm more intrigued about is how Connor's just referred to a team as just Sheffield. And does that not just show? I mean, Stu,
did you see him today?
Doesn't this just show how much Sheffield Wednesday have dropped? That we don't even consider that there are two teams in Sheffield anymore. We've just gone to Sheffield and that's it. Sheffield Wednesday might as well be playing in the Isthmian League now, as far as Connor's concerned there, because we're not even fussed about them.
What are they even in? What are they still in the Championship? Sheffield Wednesday.
I'm not sure where they've gone.
League One. They're League One, aren't they? They're either League One or Championship. Yeah, I think they're League One.
So it's their League One. They're in there with Stevenage. So what a time to realise that is. But there we are. Well, listen, I think we are sort of mostly there, to be honest with you. But we are going to nip around and take our predictions for the first of the games against Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace. So, Connor, as you had plenty of time to think about it, you can be the first to let us know. What do you think the score is going to be? Because I've got to say, personally, Dan mentioned earlier on, United have got to try and decide whether or not we go eggs in the basket of being, a strong league finish, or whether we go for the cup. I think go for the cups at this rate. We're sort of 9 points off the top. Chances of winning the title are somewhere between slim and none. So really, I think that the cups are it. If we can come away from it with what I like to call the Mickey Mouse treble, like Liverpool once did, which is where we just win a whole bunch of cup trophies, that's another good season for us. So what say you, Connor? What do you think the score is going to be?
I mean, firstly, how is Roy Hodgson still going? When you said that there, I realised, of course, yeah, he's still the bloody manager, and that guy. I've got no idea. Did you want the prediction for both, or just the first of the Palace ones?
Just that first one, mate. Yeah, because I think all of our predictions will change depending on how well we do against the midweek. Dave's gone 2-2 and win on penalties.
Yeah,
as if our hearts need that sort of stuff.
2-1. I can't see it being a big score. We're just not scoring that much at the moment. Obviously, Bayern Munich aside, which is just a weird game watching anyway. 2-1 maybe, or 2-0. I can't see it being ridiculously tough, but you can just, a side like Palace, you can just see him getting like a 40th minute corner goal or something like that. That's just flicked off. But is Anderson still there? Is he still part of that back line? Just a flick off his back of his head or something like that will go in. But yeah, 2-0 or 2-1, we'll win, but it'll be closer than I think people expect.
Well, Dan, it's a tough one. We're only a point clear in the league, so we are literally mid-table, just above them as it stands. What do you think this midweek score is going to be?
I don't know. I would just take a 1-0 now. Just another clean sheet, another win. Same for the weekend. Just a 1-0. Get through it, clean sheet and a win. We've got to build a foundation of points and clean sheets before we're going to do anything. I'd love a 3-0 or something, but it's not going to happen. I don't think this team doesn't give me the vibes that we're going to deserve to win or every game or should win every game. It's more what's going to happen on the day. I agree with Connor. I think he's going to go strong. So I think we should have enough to get through the game. But I would take a 1-0.
It's worth just noting as well. Didn't Roy Hodgson do an interview? Was it today or yesterday? Where he said, "I don't know what side I'm going to put on midweek because we've got no players anyway." He's been pretty critical of the lack of players that he's got on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever the game is. So he's going to be rotating a little bit, I'd imagine.
Palace will want to stay in the league. That'll be more important to them than
I think that's it.
Yeah.
So my point being, I think Palace might rotate a little bit more. Just very quickly as well, I've just seen John's comment about Sheffield Wednesday. I remember now because they were a part of that massive game against Peterborough, wasn't it? When they were 4-0 down in the first leg. 5-1 in 98th minute or whatever.
I think the bottom of the championship, by the way, with 2 points.
Just out of interest then, Connor, what would you refer to Sheffield Wednesday as if we were playing them? Would you still call them just Sheffield as well?
I don't know why I said that. I think it's because obviously Sheffield United got absolutely battered today. So I was just like, just Sheffield. Both just as bad.
I still love the fact there's a football team named after a day in the middle of the week, but there we are. Stu, what do you think the score is going to be?
It's straightforward. I think we'll win 2-0, and I think we'll defend the Carabao Cup. Actually, I think we'll go all the way in the Carabao Cup. I think we'll defend it. If I was in that dressing room, that would be my first goal for this season. Make sure we defend the Carabao Cup. You're right. We're not winning the league. I'm never a fan of just getting in the top 4 anyway. It doesn't mean anything to me. I think we're pretty much, if we have a good European Cup run, we're pretty much guaranteed to get into the new phase of the Champions League anyway, aren't we, in that 32? I mean,
yeah, I think every English team would need to be knocked out in the current group stage for us not to get to the top.
So we're going to get in. We're going to get Manchester United are going to get in that anyway. UEFA can't hold a Champions League of that stature without Manchester United in it. So we're going to get in it. So I say we go for the domestic treble as well. The Mickey Mouse treble as well, so to speak. But I think we should go. And I think we win 2-0. I think Højlund will score. I think he'll play. I think he'll go strong and he'll play. Højlund. I think we'll beat him again similarly on the weekend. I think we'll beat them 2-0. But Connor's right. We're not scoring enough goals. That's because we're too selfish. We're just too selfish up front. And until you can get that selfishness out of Rashford at the moment, we're going to continue to be barren in front of goals because Højlund just won't get the chances. But like I said before, he's got to make the space. He's got to demand that football in that box.
Well, there we go. We have managed to cover the entire 7 days. Stu, it's been a pleasure to have you back on the show again, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Elvis, lovely to have you down there in the corner. Lovely to have you. Connor, tell us a bit more about our, what do we call it, the sister channel? Are we going to call it that? Tell us a bit more about our sister channel because it's flying at the moment, isn't it, over there?
Well, yeah, that announcement I referred to earlier is about that channel, and it'll be tomorrow. So just it'll be on my Twitter and it'll be on the WFC Twitter. That is, yeah, I can't really say anything on it because they've told me not to, but it's very good and it's a big achievement for the channel. So that'll be tomorrow. But yeah, we're into match week from tomorrow. Finally, the WSL is back next Sunday away at Villa Park, which will be quite something. So yeah, pretty much on the women's channel. It's just all leading up to that. And I will just shout out, obviously, because this is on the men's side of the channels. Obviously, the men's side is blessed with the official fantasy football that is run. There is now a very, very good WSL fantasy football. I tweeted it earlier. We've set up our own league on that. It is brilliantly done. They're in the works making an app as well to make it a little bit easier. It's just like the men's FPL, which is fantastic. So, yeah, just make sure you join the league on that one if you like your fantasy football as well. I'm just really glad that finally there's a WSL one because there's been ones in the past and it's just been really clunky and not great. But this one is like the men's one. So I'm really happy with that. So, yeah, if you want to follow the WSL, I say it's Wolf United WFC. We'll be covering that as we lead up to Villa and just big games, isn't it? Villa Park, Villa away, Arsenal at home, PSG twice. So we've got some tasty ties to kick off the season.
At least we're in the Champions League, Connor, unlike Alessia. Bless her.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought it was a bit harsh talking to you about the WSL because I thought you'd be a bit upset about Thor leaving.
Well, I was massively upset about Thor leaving, but for her to go to Reading, I think it's a great move. It was Reading, wasn't it? If I got that right, Brighton. Sorry, I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move, to be honest, because she'll play, and she's a great player. But no, I'm more excited to see our little Japanese front player. Forgive me, I can't remember her name. I'm massively looking forward to seeing her. And is it Gaze, I believe she calls herself. Gaze, is it? I'm looking forward to seeing her play. I'm glad that Mary Earps has stayed, although I fear she'll be gone to Chelsea in the summer or somewhere like that. I fear that'll be it. She'll want to go. But my worry now, and I've got this big worry about women's football in general, is you're going to see one or two of these players, these lionesses in particular, start acting up and start becoming almost like a poser, in the men's game. And that's my big worry. And I'm hoping that we can just nip that in the bud. I think we've seen it with a couple of players already. I'm not just talking about Manchester United, I'm just talking about in general. That's my worry. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's my worry.
I'll probably no comment, particularly when we're talking about herbs. I'll talk to you backstage.
No. I was just sorry. I was just talking about general. I was just talking about general, but
I mean, it's going to happen when you get money into the game, isn't it? Money obviously changes a lot, so player power will start to become more of a thing because the players are now getting more, which is right. They should be more valuable, but
yeah, I agree.
We are going to start seeing it, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because one of the things about the women's game is it's honest. It's an honest game, and I just hope it doesn't, like you say, Connor. Money will come into it, sponsorships will come into it, X, Y, and Z will come into it. I just hope we can keep them grounded. But yeah, particularly our Japanese striker, I'm really looking forward to seeing her. Looking to see what Myla Tissier does this year. How she progressed. I thought she was outstanding last season. I really did. Great centre half. Reminded me a lot about Rio Ferdinand, but the difference is she can tackle. But she's good ball playing, but she could tackle. I thought she was great. I'll be interested to see how Katie, if she can kick on this year. Katie's element, she can kick on, and Nikita Paris, if she can have a bit more of a better influence on match days. But that's what I'm looking forward to anyway.
Yeah, Zellum already with an assist on the England team on Friday, so we shall definitely see how things are going there.
2-1. Big Scotland 2-1.
Indeed, yeah. Kirsty Hansen scoring for Scotland, having Justin for the club as well. So, hey, if you want more chat that's even more interesting and exciting than that, get yourself over to the women's channel, like, subscribe over there, and we'll hear lots of stuff. And if you're really enjoying what you're seeing tonight, come and join us tomorrow, where you have got just an unbelievable panel, haven't we? Connor and I are going to be there. We got Charlie tomorrow.
I thought you said there's an unbelievable panel. If you put it on there, Jesus,
that was probably really believable, but the rest of them, Charlie's awesome. She's all right.
Charlie's great, isn't she? She's great.
Charlie and Vic is back on tomorrow, so we've got a good mix.
Who?
Yeah. So yeah,
just a quick one on the FPL.
Person, Stu. It's not the one you're thinking of.
Let me get my ears right here. Jesus, right.
It's a different one.
Dan, you just mentioned the FPL. I've tried 3 times to log into my FPL team, and each time it's not allowed me to do it. So how badly am I losing?
I just wanted to say, just put your hand up if you're in the top 250,000 players in the world.
It was surprising to know
that would be me.
I don't do fantasy Premier League.
Are you top of our group?
I am still not top of our group. I'm second.
Well, who's first?
I can't say the name. Victor. Wait.
What's the team name? I like the fact that it's somebody called Victor.
It's Khalifa United. It's Victor Chukwuegbunka.
I just like the fact that he could be the Victor.
I can't believe you just butchered him there.
He's on I think he's on something like 400 points already. He's absolutely flying.
I was going to say,
there we go. People take this stuff far too seriously. I literally only joined it because you told me to, and I did tell you day one I probably won't get the chance to look at my side again. And
you are currently bottom.
Come on, somebody's got to hold this channel up. I mean, the FPL up.
Don't worry about it, Baz. Don't worry about it, mate.
You say that Barry's going to have the most points this week. I've just checked your team. You've got Botman and Dan Byrne in your team. Both scored today. Both clean sheets. Yeah. You've got 2 players from the Dream 11 in there.
The person with the most points in the league this week is Andy Boyle with 97.
Ooh. Congratulations to you, sir.
It's
not bad going. And he's got Botman, Foden, Son.
Lads, it's only fantasy, lads. Come on. It's only fantasy.
This is my face. It's been my face.
Exactly. I don't do it. I don't play, lads. I haven't got the time, actually, to be fair. The amount of my mates do it, and I'm like, who have you captain this week?
You know what I mean? I worry myself about more important things, like what am I having for dinner?
Exactly. And you've got exactly.
Can
You're
I get
exactly
that
right.
match report done? And speaking of which, Stu's going to go for his in just a second. But Dan,
I am. Yeah.
left you till last because we just had to say, hopefully this midweek we are introducing back in to the All for United schedule, a little midweek show, but a midweek mayhem we're calling it at the moment. What night can we expect to see that on, and what sort of rubbish are we going to be chatting there?
What day is the Champions League game?
It's not. It's the Carabao Cup, isn't it? Crystal
Oh,
Palace.
there you go. Oh, it'd be a Carabao Cup game then, wouldn't it? So yeah, whatever the day after will probably be that. Probably, are we playing on the Tuesday?
Play Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll probably be the Wednesday night, and fingers crossed we'll be talking about how we battered Palace, and we'll be on to better things for the weekend.
Well, there we go then. So Dan will be reviewing Crystal Palace and previewing Crystal Palace during the middle of the week. I won't be there. I will be in Hatfield. So there you go. So we will sort Dan out a lovely panel of people. But until then, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you soon.